Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar sessions today. This is Tiana, and I'm your host for today's webinar, which will be presented by Ali Cochran. She's a software trainer, she's a BAS agent, and a long-term client of GovReports. And in today's webinar sessions, we aim to show you what are the new features of the GovReports digital authentication, which was released a couple of months ago, and how to make use of them in your practice. So hopefully you can pick up a few tips on how to use these features to apply in the coming tax seasons for your clients. Before we get started, can I get a raise of hands if you can hear me? Thanks, Susan. Thanks, Vicky. Okay, you all can hear me. Thank you. Well, the webinar is recording, and will be posted on the website by tomorrow morning for those who want to revisit at your convenience, or those that cannot make today's sessions. During the sessions or during the webinar, if you have questions, please send them through to on the chat box so that we can attend to them during the questions time. Let us now get started. Thanks, Ali. Over to you.
Okay, thanks, Tiana. I hope everyone can still hear me okay. So I'm just going to put everyone's hands down for the moment. And you can see the screen okay. So today we're going to talk about the new digital authentication in GovReports. So as Tiana mentioned, this was introduced a couple of months ago now. So what we're going to look at today is what's new in the digital authentication, looking at your preference settings and the security configuration, because there's a couple of changes there that we can do. Creating your own digital signature so you can attach it to the documents, signing and sending documents, customizing the messages to accompany your documents, reminders, downloading your documents, and then using our digital signatures to have your clients authorize various documents, and letters and templates, which we won't cover in a lot of detail, but we'll just touch on today. So what's new in digital authentication? So let's compare the new version and the old version. So it opens in a new browser screen, as did the older version. And the signing section, where you mark it, where the signature is required when you send off a document in the old version, you can now in the new version have not just the signature, but you can also have initials, name, and a company, and the receiving clients can sign, initial, or type their name and company name in. So that's a little bit more than it had functionality before. Previously, when you had multiple documents in the old version, you'd have to tab through the document to view the pages on it. Now you're able to scroll down to see the additional documents for signing. With our preference settings, in the past, in the old version, the main account holder details were what was the controlling preference. Now you can also choose between the main account holder and the sending user details. The set security code per client, on the old version, it was available on a single use, but now you can fix it that it can be used for subsequent uses. The ability to have signatures for all pages and initials on all pages was not available in the older version, but it is now available in the newer version. In the old version, when the signed documents went to multiple recipients, then they'd get notified when the first signee signed the document and then the subsequent signee, etc. All the recipients now get notified when all parties have signed or viewed. And the document status used to be pending for signature, viewed, and or signed. And now you have pending for signature, viewed, signed, and received a copy. So let's take a look at what the screen looks like. That's a lot of me talking about what was in that little table there. So as I mentioned, it opens in a new browser as the old version did. But one of the things that's different is that you'll notice that there is a hamburger bar here on the left-hand side of the screen. And that allows you to actually move and toggle into your GovReports, into the bird's eye view and back into your GovReports. Now, if you've used an older version of the digital authenticator, then all your documents will still be visible in the new version. But if you have not used the older version before, then your screen when you first log in will be blank. So just not to panic if you see something blank and it's the first time you're using digital authenticator. So let's talk about the preference settings. On the new screen here, and just to remind people how you can get there, these little coloured squares here, when you click on here, you get the option to choose digital authenticator or digital authenticator version 2, and we're looking at version 2. In the preference settings, this allows you to change and set the defaults for contacts and for notifications. So if you choose to set the defaults for practice details, then the main agent business owner, the details that will be shown, the sender details that will be shown in the email will be the agent's contact details. If you select the sender option here, then whenever a document is sent by someone in the practice, then the sender details are shown in the email as appropriate, as opposed to just the agent's contact details. So that's something that was new. Before it used to be just basically the agent or business owner's details. So one of the other things, of course, that you may already be aware of is that GovReports implements a security password before the recipient documents can be accessed. Now, the signee or viewer doesn't have to have a GovReports account to be able to open the documents, and there are 4 types of security that we're going to look at. The first one is that when you're sending a document, you have it set to the security code to email address. And we're going to see this in the next few screens shortly. So what happens when you set that security setting is that the signee will receive an email with a review and sign link. When they click onto it, they'll be directed to log in with a one-time password, which is automatically generated and sent by email. So you can see then when they've clicked on it, the code will come by email. They put in the email and simply then click on submit. The second option is the set security code, and this is one of the ones this has changed. So it used to be a one-time, and now you can set a security code for multiple uses. The signee receives the email with the review and sign link like they do normally. They're directed to log in with a security code, but they need to contact the sender to get that security code. And once they know that security code, they'll be able to use it going forward. Once again, they enter the security code and then click on the submit button. This is another client security code, which this one is they need to get the security code again to access the document. And this will be specific for the client. Once again, enter the code, click submit to access it. And the final one is the no security code. Not recommended, obviously, for obvious reasons. Once they click it, they'll be able to access the document without any authentication whatsoever. As I said, not really recommended from a security point of view. So let's take a look at the actual screens and things that have changed a little bit in our second version of digital authentication. So one of the things you'll notice is that in the older version of Digital Authenticator, the status of documents and all the information ran down the left-hand side of the screen. So now we've got a much cleaner digital authorization dashboard with the document overview functions that run across the top of the screen. So you have at the top here, the documents, which shows all the documents and the status types. Then you have your contacts, showing all the list of contacts that have been sent documents for signature. You have the signature area where it shows your signature and initial and where you can add your signature and initial in. The messages, which shows messages sent and received. The search field, which allows you to search for any document using a search criteria, which the little drop down filters here will allow you to search for certain things. And the new document button, which allows you to send or sign a document from within the digital authorization dashboard. So when you click, oh, gone back too quickly that way. When you click on the new document, you'll have the option here of sending a document or signing a document. And when you use the advanced search with the filters, you'll get an option here of an advanced search and being able to search by title, by document status, dates where the expiry date is, the sender or the recipient. Now, directly below the document overview is the document status. So in here, it's got all the documents and their statuses are running across the top of the screen. And you can click on each of these and it will filter what will display. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Sent means they've been sent, drafts in draft, actions required, pending signature, the signed, expiring documents, expired, declined, and archived. So the sent just shows the documents that have been sent to the recipients. The action, the draft shows the ones that have been prepared but are incomplete or not yet sent to the client. The actions required shows the documents pending a signature from the account holder when created from sign a document. So that's different to a pending one where you've sent it out for signature to the recipient. This is one when it's being created from signing a document where you have had to sign it and it needs some action. The pending signature shows those documents that have been prepared, sent and awaiting the client's acceptance. The signed shows the documents that have been approved and signed by the client. The expiry documents shows the documents awaiting signature and they'll have their expiry date. Expired shows all the expired documents. Declined shows all the documents the client has declined to sign. And the archive shows documents that have been archived. So it's, as I said, it's fairly self-explanatory. So why would we use digital authentication to authorize our documents? It allows a more organized work area where you can view the status of your documents. You can take advantage of the tools at your fingertips to automate and more efficiently utilize your use of time. And there are any number of reports that we can utilize and send for authorization using digital authentication. We are not limited to just those documents such as BAS lodgements, STP, payroll events, TFN declarations or TPAR. We can add other documents in to send for signature. And we'll talk a little bit about that a little later on. So let's take a look at how we set up for digital signatures. Because once you want to start using your digital authorization, you want to make sure that you've got a digital signature there. So when you're on your main dashboard, you click on the signature bar and it will come up. In this case, it's got my name and initials there because I've actually used this before. But you can change or edit the signature. You can remove the signature. You can create your initials. Now, when you go to create your signature, you can either type it, in which case you type it in here. You can choose the color, and you can choose the type of font, the way you want it to display. Once you've done that, you simply click the Save button. Alternatively, if you're very good with a mouse, you could draw your signature. Once again, draw it, choose your color, and save it. Or if you already have a file that contains your signature, you can upload that signature. So it's very straightforward setting up your signature. Everything is now on the dashboard, very easy to access. So let's look at sending documents from the dashboard. So you will find that you send the documents through the new document drop-down box. So when you have the new document drop-down box, you choose send a document as opposed to clicking on new document or sign a document. So you send a document and you upload your PDF. It needs to be the PDF file. You can either drag or drop or upload it. Then you're going to fill in the recipient details in the email here, their name, and you're going to choose from 3 options in the recipient's role. You're going to choose needs to sign, needs to view, or receives a copy. And that's a new function. That receives a copy wasn't there in the old version. So the first thing you'll do is choose one of these. So you can have multiple recipients. You can add recipients in, and they can have different roles. You may be sending a copy to someone, so they might just get the receive a copy here. Or it may be someone who needs to sign the document, so you'll choose need to sign. Or it may be someone who needs to view the document, so it will be needs to view. So you can have multiple people on the document having different roles. Once you've chosen what role and put in the recipient's details, you'll need to tell them the security access. And this is where we talked about those 4 levels of security previously. We're going to choose either a security code to the email address. We're going to set a security code, which they'll contact us for. We're going to have a client security code, which we've set up, and they'll contact us for, or there's no security. By having this security, you are ensuring that only the person whom the document was intended for can access it. If you have no security, anybody can access it. The next part you're going to do is add your message details. Now, there are some default templates already there which you can use. Or you may already have, in the previous version of Digital Authenticator, you may have already set up other templates already, or you can create your own on the fly. So in here, you could type in your email details here. You then would go through and set a reminder or an expiry alert, because if you use that functionality there, it will remind the client to sign the document every so many days. And so when you click on that set reminder, in here you can tick the create a reminder, and you can set it up for the number of days when to repeat until they've signed it. And the document will automatically expire in 120 days unless you change the number in here. Now we've actually going to the next screen. And now if you've already used the first version of digital authentication, you'll notice some real changes here. Previously, you would basically have the signature where you would mark it for signature. You would choose the person who it was. So up here we have the recipients. And so you can see here we have Steve Smith needs to sign, John Morris needs to view, and Klasan needs to receive a copy. So you can see here they have different functions. In Steve Smith's case, he needs to sign. So we would, when I'm highlighting his name here, we would choose the signature from here and move it into the signature box. If we wanted the initials or the name or anything else, we could also move and drag those fields into here. So we have more than just the signature option. We can sign the document ourselves also in the send, fill and sign. Before we send it to the recipient, we can specify down the bottom here that the signature needs to be placed on all pages, or we might need initials to be placed on all pages. So it's just a matter now of dragging and dropping. So that one's a little bit larger so you can see all the different functions here that you can drag and drop onto it. So if you were using this maybe for something like an engagement letter or something, and you wanted them to initial every single page on the engagement letter, then you could have that specification that they have initial in all places on the page. So once I have sent my document, then it's going to appear in my documents dashboard. If I didn't send it yet, it's going to sit in my documents dashboard as a draft. So on here, you can see the status in your documents here. By clicking on any of those documents there, it will bring up the details screen on the right-hand side. And this will show you the status, the documents, the recipients, the reminder details, the expiration date, the message, and the activity log related to this document. Furthermore, you have these additional functions along the top of the screen that you will choose to either continue with the process and sending it, you want to download the document, you want to download different things within the document. So there are different things within here that you have the option of doing. You've got emailing, you've got deleting it altogether to remove it. So this little detail screen now has this lovely little one up the top. These functions were there before as well, but as you can see, it's a much cleaner, fresher look now. So signing documents from the digital authorization dashboard. What we've looked at then was sending our documents. If we continued, we could send it out to the client and it would come back to us signed, hopefully. We may have instances where we need to sign a document ourselves. So from the documents area here, we would choose new document, sign a document. And the process is very similar. You need to upload the documents to sign. You need to place your signature in the required location. And you can add these other fields by dragging and dropping them. Normally this sits on the left-hand side, but for my screen, I couldn't get it there on my PowerPoint. And then when you're finished adding all the fields and the signature has been done, you click the Finish button, which will appear. And finally, you click Submit to confirm the fields included in the document, and you can either send or download the document. So we touched on briefly about the message settings when we upload a document, the defaults coming, and how you can create your own or use the existing templates, etc. This hasn't changed. You can still use the default message settings or use your own saved messages. So messages can be created in two ways. We can do it from the digital authentication dashboard screen, or we can do it from within the authorization process, which we'll look at later. So if we're doing it from our main digital authorization screen, we're going to select the messages from the document screen. When we do that, we can choose a message that is already there. And if we click on that, it will bring up the details screen on the right. In the action column there, you see the view. We can then edit, pardon me, I'm just going to mute myself for a minute while I cough. Oh, pardon me. If we click the view in the action column with a detail screen popping up, we have the option now to edit that message and make changes to it. So here we have the original message. Here I've spaced it a little bit more, and then we click on the save. Oops. Now we can also use this screen to create a new message. So when we're in the messages screen, we click on the new message icon. This will bring up a blank message for you to add your message in. Once you've completed your message, you can save it. Importantly, what you need to do is create a message title, a subject, and whilst you do the message, you can also include your placeholders. So here I've created a message called monthly IAS, and I put the subject monthly IAS for your review and signature. Then I've gone through and gone dear, and I've chosen the placeholder recipient name, etc. And then I've clicked the save button. Okay. So that's about creating our messages. And as I said, we can do it in two ways, and we're going to cover the other way off shortly. Now, another important part within our digital authorization is those reminders. So as I showed you earlier, when we're actually sending the document, we have the option to create a reminder at that stage. But if we accidentally overlook it, we can manually remind people as well. To do that, we go to our document screen, and within the action column, we'll have an option here to remind, and we simply click on the remind. Alternatively, oh, I've gone too far. Alternatively, on the document screen, we can actually just click on the document and not on the action column, and we'll get the details window popping up on the right hand side, and we can click remind there. So it's two ways, both as good as each other. Now, you can also download copies of the documents that you have that have been signed, etc., either separately or as one merged document if there's multiple documents, so that you might want to keep them somewhere with your working papers elsewhere. So you are able to do this via this download options. So when you call up your actual screen, if I go back a screen for the moment, a couple of screens just to show you. Oh. when we had a look at the screen here before, we had the signing, and I'm just trying to find the one I'm looking for. When we had the details on the right-hand side, sorry, there it is, right here staring at me. When you click on the actual document here, there is a download option here. So when you choose that drop-down option, you will get the option as either a separate or combined PDFs, depending on whether you want to download them separately or have them merged into one document. The other thing that you may also want to download is a certificate of completion. So within that same drop-down option for the document, you have the separate, the combined, and a certificate. And this records the details of the recipient, the date, the document name, and it has the timestamps when everything had occurred. So you may want to keep this once again as part of your working papers. So all you simply have to do from the document screen is click on the view in the actions column to bring up the details screen, select certificate from the download Dropbox list, and you're able to download that. Hopefully I'm not speaking too fast and the pace is okay for you. So I mentioned before how we can authorize documents a couple of ways. We can either send a document from that main digital authentication dashboard in the documents area. We can go new and send a document, or we may actually be doing it in the process of preparing a BAS, a TPAR, or whatever we may be preparing, some lodgement documentation. So in here, I'm going to take you through the process of how you do it through the in-process part of the digital of lodging a BAS or an IAS. So you will have prepared your lodgement document the same way as you normally do. But when you get to the next stage where you're going to either save it as a draft, pre-lodge it, save it and validate it, or save, validate and send for signature, or lodge, we have the other option now of save, validate and send for signature DA version 2. So if you choose the one above it, the save, validate and send for signature, that will bring up digital authentication version 1, the old version. We will choose version 2. And this is going to allow you to follow the same steps as we did previously in sending a document. So we're just doing it from within the BAS or the IAS or whatever we're doing. So the screens are going to look the same. So we previously looked at editing and creating the new messages in the DA. So I'm not going to go rushing through this whole process again, but I'm just going to go back here and just show you that you normally would just go through that same thing of adding the information in, getting the message up, setting the security code, setting up the reminders, and then placing your signature for it's just that we're accessing it within the process rather than accessing it from within the dashboard that I'm showing you. The same thing can be said for doing our messages, setting up our messages. Before, we created the new message from the dashboard, or we edited an existing message from the digital authentication dashboard. We could be in the middle of actually doing a document and sending it like we were before, and we could actually do the same editing of an existing message and saving that message from within our own existing process. So all I would do is I would go through, I'd send it for authorization, add in my recipient, and when it comes down to the message part, I might have a default message there. I can go through and change all the details here, and then I would click on Save Message, and that will give me the option to save that message with a different title. So I can create my new message as I'm doing my BAS. Now we also have the option to preview the message, to have a look at what it's going to look like. And we also have managing our saved messages. So we can do that all from within here as well. So say that you'd saved the form as a draft. There's something you wanted to check on, but now you want to actually send it off for an electronic signature. If you've prepared the work, then from our main GovReports screen, our little bird's eye view here, in the My Lodgements area, that draft report will be in the Saved Reports area. So by going to our Saved Reports, we can see the status of the reports, draft, valid, etc. However, it must have a status of valid in order to be able to send it for electronic signature. You can't send a draft for electronic signature. It has to be valid. So we're going to click on that. We're going to choose, we're going to click on that one and select it to send for signature. Now, I think I have, yeah, so when I click on this form here, it will open a new box. And when the details box comes up, I'm going to choose the option of send for signature new version rather than just send for signature. Once again, now it will allow you to, the PDF will automatically upload. You can also add additional PDFs at this time if you want to add additional documentation. Now, once it has been uploaded, you'll notice that in the subject field, it will update to reflect the name of the file that has been uploaded. Once again, you will choose your recipients, you will choose their role, you will set their security access, you will add your message, set your reminders, and now the document will be ready for you to choose the signature location. So from the left-hand side, you're going to choose where you want to place the signature. So in this case, I've got a simple document. There's only one of them that needs to be signed. And I'm just going to place it here. And you can see here you've got a little thumbnail just showing you what's there. So the thing to remember about digital authentication is that it's not limited to the forms that are within GovReports, the lodgement forms. You can create and upload documents for signature. You can create letters and templates to send for signature. And we're going to have a look in a moment how to do that. So one of the things that I certainly used it for was during COVID, when we all had to send in the job seeker bits and pieces. I had my PDFs all there. I had them completed. I uploaded them, sent them for signature to the clients through GovReports because it was easier for me to do that, by far quicker, and I can also track it. That's the beauty of having the digital authentication and the documents area, is tracking your documents and where they're at. You can see at any time where things are at. So let's touch a little bit on creating letters and templates to send for signature. And I'm not going to delve too much into detail about this because this is covered in another webinar we're holding, where we'll be talking about your practice settings and a little bit more about setting up your practice, and that will include also letters and templates. So to access the letters and templates, we select the settings in the top right-hand side of the screen, which is your little cogwheel. And from there, we choose practice settings from the drop-down menu. When the screen pops up on the left-hand side, you select templates and letters, funnily enough. So one of the things to note that any templates or letters that have a pending status are ready for you to then send for e-signature. Now you can see that any letter sent for e-signature is attached to a client. And when you click on the sending for e-signature, it will automatically open the digital authentication program. Now, if you want to find what letters a client has, you can easily look at that by going to your client, the My Clients area, select the client, select the Letters tab, and you'll see all the letters that are there. You can also send any letters for the client for e-signature from that part in the My Client and the Letters tab area. Now, previously, there was a message limitation of 5 messages to be set up in the messages area. I'm not sure, Tiana, whether or not that has changed, but if it hasn't, you can overcome that message limitation by creating your own letters and templates to set up further message templates. And we do that by creating a template